Let's kick things off with a big question. Have you ever really thought about what the absolute smallest thing is that we can call alive? Like truly, independently alive. It's a fun one to think about, right? So let's dive in, because the answer, well, it's at the very core of what makes you, you. So, what's your first guess? Is it a tiny speck of dust? Or maybe something even smaller, like an atom, a single atom of carbon? Or how about a molecule of water? Well, nope. The real answer is so much cooler and way more complex.
It's the cell. That's the one. The cell is the basic building block, the fundamental unit of structure and function for every living thing we know of. Think about it this way. If you don't have at least one whole, complete cell, you just can't have life on its own. It's the literal starting point.
All right, so how did we even figure this out? It's not like you can just look at something and know, right? Well, over a long time, scientists started to notice a pattern, a set of universal rules that every single cell, no matter what, seems to follow. You can almost think of it like the fundamental blueprint for all of life on our planet.
And this blueprint, it has a name. It's called the cell theory. And let me tell you, this is a cornerstone of modern biology. It was pieced together by some seriously brilliant minds. Guys like Schleiden, Schwann, and a little later, Rudolf Virchow. These were the folks who basically laid out the official ground rules for what it even means to be alive.
Okay, so what are these rules? There are three big ones. First up, every single living thing, and I mean everything, from a giant blue whale to the tiniest little bacterium, is made of one or more cells. Simple, right? Second, the cell isn't just a little blob. Nope, it's the most basic unit that can actually do all the stuff life requires. And third, and this one's a biggie, cells don't just magically appear out of thin air. Rudolf Virchow had this famous Latin saying for it, omni cellula e cellula. It just means every single cell comes from another cell that already existed.
All right, so we've established that all life is made of cells. Got it. But here's where it gets interesting. Not all cells are built the same way. It turns out evolution kind of came up with two basic designs, two different master plans for building a living organism. So let's check out how they stack up against each other.
So on one side, you've got the prokaryote. You can think of this as life's version 1.0, the original, super simple model. And on the other side, you have the eukaryote. This is like the deluxe upgrade, way more complex and organized. But the number one, most crucial, game-changing difference between them? It all comes down to how they handle their genetic blueprint, their DNA.
Let's talk about the prokaryotes first, things like bacteria. These guys are the true minimalists of the living world. Their DNA, the master instruction manual for the whole operation, it's just floating around inside the cell. There's no private office, no special room for it, and this simple design is actually a feature, not a bug. It keeps them small, simple, and lets them reproduce incredibly fast.
But then you have the eukaryotic cells, the kind that make up plants, animals, fungi, and us. These cells took a massive evolutionary leap. They decided to build a secure vault for their DNA, a protected command center called the nucleus. And this wasn't just about being neat and tidy. No way. By protecting the precious DNA from all the chemical chaos happening in the rest of the cell, it allowed for a way bigger, way more complex set of instructions. It's like going from a one-page memo to an entire library. And that change is what made all the complex, specialized life we see today even possible.
So to really get a handle on just how complex a eukaryotic cell is, let's use an analogy. Let's imagine one of these cells is like a tiny, bustling city. And every single little structure inside it, what we call an organelle, has a very specific job to do to keep this whole city running smoothly day in and day out.
First stop on our tour, the city limits. This is the cell membrane. Now, don't picture a stiff brick wall. This is more like a flexible, smart barrier. It's the city's border control, and it's super sophisticated. It's constantly deciding what gets in, like nutrients, and what gets kicked out, like waste. It's also receiving messages from other cities. It literally manages all the traffic, in and out.
Okay, moving inward, we arrive at the heart of our city, the nucleus. This is basically City Hall. It's a heavily fortified command center. Inside, it keeps the city's most important documents, the DNA blueprints, safe and sound. And when it needs to give an order, it sends out messages through special gateways. And these instructions, they control everything, absolutely everything, from how fast the city grows to how much power it uses, all the way to the massive decision to build a whole new city.
Now, the entire landscape of this city, pretty much everything inside the border, is filled with this stuff called cytoplasm. It's this jelly-like substance that all the other parts float around in. But don't think of it as just empty space or packing peanuts. Oh no, this is the main arena. It's a busy, bustling chemical soup where thousands and thousands of reactions are happening all the time. This is where the work gets done, what we call the cell's metabolism. And scattered all over this city, you'll find these tiny, tiny little factories. We call them ribosomes. What's so cool about these is that every cell has them. The simplest bacteria, the most complex human cell, they all need these little guys. But why? Well, these are the factories that read the instruction manuals sent from City Hall, the nucleus, and they use them to build proteins. And proteins are the little machines and building blocks that do, well, pretty much everything the city needs to function.
Of course, a bustling city needs power, right? You can't run factories and send messages without energy. So let me introduce you to the mitochondria. These are the power plants. These incredible organelles take in food, the nutrients, and they break it down to produce this high-energy molecule called ATP. Think of ATP as the city's cash. Every single thing the cell does, building a protein, sending a signal, you name it, has to be paid for with ATP.
Now, what if our city was a plant cell? Well, it would have a few extra, very cool, specialized buildings. First, on the very outside, it would have a tough, rigid city wall for extra support and protection. Then, it'd be loaded with its own solar panels, which we call chloroplasts, to capture sunlight and make its own food. Pretty neat, huh? And finally, it would have this huge central reservoir, the vacuole, which is mostly for storing water and keeping the whole city plump and firm.
So, okay, we've got this basic blueprint for a eukaryotic cell, this whole microscopic city model. But here's what's really mind-blowing. It's how that one general plan can be tweaked and adapted to create cells with wildly different, specialized jobs. It's the perfect example of form follows function. I mean, just look at a nerve cell. Its whole structure is built for its job. It's super long, with all these branches, looking just like a piece of biological wiring. And that's exactly what it is. It's designed to shoot electrical signals over huge distances at incredible speeds. We're talking about connecting your brain all the way to your big toe in a split second.
Or what about a red blood cell? It's this tiny little disc that's kind of pinched in the middle on both sides, almost like a donut where the hole didn't go all the way through. This weird shape, we call it biconcave, is actually genius. It gives it more surface area to grab onto oxygen, and it makes it super flexible, so it can literally fold in half to squeeze through the tiniest little blood vessels to do its job.
And let's go back to plants for a second. Inside a leaf, you'll find these mesophyll cells. They're kind of roundish, and they are just absolutely stuffed to the brim with those solar panels, the chloroplasts. Their entire design, their whole reason for being, is optimized to do just one thing, but do it brilliantly. Soak up as much sunlight as they possibly can to make food for the whole plant.
It's this incredible variety that led Rudolf Virchow, the same guy from the cell theory, to say that the body is a community made up of its innumerable cells. He realized it's not just one city, it's more like a whole nation of specialized cities all working together.
And that brings us to one last, kind of mind-bending idea to wrap this all up. If we can really picture just one of your cells as this incredibly complex, bustling city with its own power grid, factories, and communication systems, then what does that make you? You're not just a collection of cities. You're not even just a nation. You are an entire planet, a living world, teeming with trillions of these cellular citizens, all communicating, all cooperating, all working in this beautiful, near-perfect harmony, just to create the one single, conscious being that you call me.